talk about that incident.
Well, good. I mean,
Are we done?
whatever.
Are we on?
Yeah, we're on.
All right. Look, this is addressed to your guys, your weightlifters,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's how you train them, right?
Right.
And you use the red hot prod and the whip. You do
Yeah.
the whip with them?
Yeah, it's all. It comes out of my mouth though.
Yeah, I know that. No, you
You know
don't.
that?
You don't bang them around with kosher rules.
No, literally, I just have like a giant whip coming out of my mouth, and I just use my head.
It's really. I have to say this to the audience. If your guys see this, they know you. They know you're probably a prick in some way, but
Absolutely.
you have no idea what's being controlled. This could be a very dangerous person. Everybody should be grateful. Anyway, and in that vein, let me speak to something, okay?
Sure. Just had to.
I want to speak to your guys. I mean, I want to dialogue with them. I sense that if these people are smart enough to appreciate you, then they have the brain to have a dialogue, at least at some level, with an escapee from a lunatic asylum who always shows up with a little dog on his lap. And that's part of what I want to address.
Yeah.
Now, you know that one night, years ago, I was still trying to start a group.
Yeah.
Because I had belonged to groups, consciousness groups, authenticity groups, whatever you want to call them. But I wanted to do stuff that was based upon cognition, seeing, awareness, perception, understanding, synthesizing, all the things that go into your intellectual life. Some people are very right-brained and they're extremely good mechanically. Other people are very left-brained, a lot of yin too, like me. I intellectualize. Ideas to me are all swirling around in an enormous universe of untold numbers of ideas, but they're all somehow centralized for me, okay? That's my value. I can put something into perspective, but I also have to note this. A lot of people are entirely slavish to image when it comes to their listening. Especially authoritarian personalities. I don't know how many of your guys are authoritarian personalities, but we know that when we trained in the dojo, 99% of the guys and even the gals were authoritarian personalities. And you have to understand that's not a compliment, okay? They need somebody to do their ultimate thinking and valuing for them. That's very sad. I'm the opposite. I'm at the other end of the spectrum when it comes to that. I will shine a light onto everything and show you that everybody walks on the abyss. Everybody walks on the trap door, and beneath the trap door there may not be anything. So no bullshit like that. But here's what I keep finding. People will listen in terms of how they perceive you. Years ago, a girl with epilepsy sat in my psychology classes, and my classes seemed to do a lot for her. It gave her understanding and acceptance and things of that nature. And her parents came in to thank me. And when the father, I think, said it, I thought you'd be much bigger. You get it? The power, because they think in terms of power. They think in terms of strength. And a lot of, here's my point, a lot of your guys may say, why the hell do I want to listen to that 79-year-old old broken down bastard who sits there with a dog in his lap, a dog that used to be a cat not long ago, last lifetime.
Right.
What a pussy. Why would I listen to that guy? He's got no power.
Right.
And I want to address that. When people feel that way, what they can do is they can drop away or they can challenge. They want to challenge, have a good time, have at it.
Right.
Have at it. I don't mean that I would hurt people, but I have never been defeated in an argument. I will not let myself be defeated.
Right.
You can say that you have not been defeated, but you know that I'm still whacking you around and putting you into the corner.
Right.
And all I do is try to be honest. Socrates, make Socrates your hero.
Right.
If you want to do this. Socrates was so brutally honest about it. All he ever did was question everything. You do real philosophy, you're questioning everything, including all the stuff that comes up in your brain. Because if you think that you're just creating that, like out of a force of will, you're just an instrument of the universe. If you start really being honest about a lot, you're going to find out that the idea of power is so relative.
That's right.
That there are very powerful people in the world. Name one of them that will not die. Name one of them that'll be alive in maybe even 30 years.
Yeah. That's actually the Johnny Cash song I've been listening to
Oh yeah?
lately. Did you ever hear that one?
No,
It says that you can run on for a long time, sooner or later God will cut you down.
no, I don't know,
That's
but
good.
yeah.
It's a good song. I mean, it's basically, he says, like, it doesn't matter how much somebody else hurts you in life or who they are, eventually, you know, we all end up in the same spot.
Like the way I use, because I'm so ignorant of mathematics, I picture a big, big bubble, and inside the bubble are all these values, and then represented by numbers, and they all represent different experiences and learnings and things of that nature, perceptions that go into your life. All the things, all the moments of your life, right? That sounds like a soap opera, I think. But anyway, all those moments, they all add up, and they're all inside the bubble, and they're all values, and
Yeah.
they're all numbers, and they produce all kinds of meanings, because you can do anything with numbers. You can apply them to anything, from baseball to emotions, anything, right? And so, what I've always said, because it's easy for a mathematical nitwit like me, I've always said that they are all turn into big equations, right? You put all that stuff into an equation, and you just go around the room on the blackboard several times or more, and then at the end it's equals what? 0. Every single time, right?
Right.
Every time it's always 0.
Yeah.
And that's not like a new thought I've had. I put something like that in one of my allegories. If you have morbid guys in your group, they might like to listen to some of my allegories.
Yeah.
They'd say what they would say as they identify.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I just thought I'd say that. I don't know if they want to hear
Sure.
us talk about anything.
Sure. Well, so no. Originally, what we had talked about is we were out on the porch and we were talking about this guy that you know that was basically trying to overdose on painkillers,
Oh yeah.
right? And the terrible destruction on your body that can do while you're trying to basically like
Run away from pain.
run away from
Suffering.
reality.
It's all- yeah, suffering.
Right. I mean, but like you know, we talked about the world. The world is the world of samsara. It's the world of sorrow. It's
Yeah.
the world of suffering. You're trying to remove yourself from that when to be completely embodied, you have to completely embrace that. You have to go into it, not away from it. You know, and it sucks because it's you know the limited realm that we live in, and it's
Half your guys just jumped up and ran away. After
yeah,
you
right.
said that.
I know, right? I'm sure.
Don't shut them off now. Just
Yeah,
humor them.
but but you when you don't try to run away from that like the reality, when you're not trying to escape the reality, you're more grounded and embodied, I would suppose, than when you're trying to run away from it.
That's definitely your way.
Yeah,
That's basically why.
that's like the stoic way.
Without. Huh?
It's like a stoicism.
Yeah, that's right. That's basically been your way, and that's. But then there's a foundation to it. You can talk about it as an ego strategy, all that, and you can always dismiss the negative too. But there's something else about that, and it's a relationship to the foundation, and that's because you were born embodied. And even though you were raised by simians, you still remain essentially embodied. I mean, maybe they even. We don't need to go into that. I was raised by a wolf.
Yeah, right.
But let me finish.
Yeah.
So your way is to go within, and that's. I mean, obviously, it's there's the suffering in the sentient life, but to go to the heart of the sentient life is what I think is the correct way. I fully agree. I came to that intellectually decades and decades ago. In fact, that's the crux of my doctoral dissertation,
Right.
where I found the flaw in Sartre's version of the body's relationship to the world. He had a barrier that was not valid. I removed the barrier, and suddenly now you have consciousness which can be at large. If what? If the body's traumas and all the negative programs that has been absorbed over the years to make us these separative, sometimes bellicose people, judgmental as hell, hating ourselves, trying to improve ourselves in various ways, looking for like the most immediate kick. And here we are like that. And there's not a whole hell of a lot you can do about that except to observe it and to accept yourself. So what I would try to say is something about self-acceptance, but you can find it, if they are inclined like you can find it in the core of your sentient consciousness. That's the key to what I was trying to say. At the core of your be embodied. Like, there are all kinds of books that I read in the past on body consciousness and the betrayal of the body by Alexander Lowen. Brilliant stuff that shows you. I dated a girl once. I'm sorry to say this, but I hope I'm not offending any females. But I dated a girl who had a tremendous crush on me, and she overwhelmed my my distance, and eventually I gravitated towards her, reached out to her, and she ran away. And I didn't fully understand it at the time. I was naive psychologically in terms of human dynamics. I really was. And so this is many years ago. And it happened with others too. They'd even be older. One was a 39-year-old, formerly married. You'd think that she understood that she had a daddy issue. That what she was doing was simply gravitating towards the one that she wanted, but he's only the representative, he's the surrogate, and when you gut him, he's not the one you wanted, because the one you wanted is always at a distance. Electra, that's the Electra complex, that's the counterpart to the Oedipal complex. It's just as real, and it's played out all the time, Angelina Jolie, and all our sweeties. I mean, when they have everything, they can't find anything that satisfies them.
Yeah, and like you said, it is on both sides of that.
We're all crazy. Humans.
Right. And it's just the experience of you having to experience it with a particular person on your end without having the Oedipal thing.
There was something else about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Alexander Lowen talked about this very thing, and he showed an illustration in the book. This girl, from the waist up, was petite and very, very pretty, very gorgeous. From the waist down, she could have been a linebacker in high school. Yeah. And he showed that very often the sexual side is so repressed and perceived as dirty and ugly that it will actually cut the body in half. Because body consciousness has to be removed from certain parts of the body in order to remove the temptation or the feelings. I put this in my latest book. I have an episode, one of the in the sexual chakra. I have a young woman like that, and that we go through it. And I think it's kind of interesting. I've got a few good things in that one. Anyway,
you're saying that the psychological condition can be entrapped in a certain area of the body.
And create a kind of its own physical destiny. She's cut off from her sexuality from here on down. She saw that, I found out. She saw that as gross. This part is gross. Sex is gross. But the idealization is up in here. The visual and the verbal. But there's a disembodiment from the entire being. Interesting. And it was just a fragment of my learning about that kind of thing. There are other people who've done it too, lots of it. R.D. Lane.
To think about that playing out in many different concepts of basically to say people's identity to themselves and the ideas that they extrapolate off of that identity and the perceptions coming in bouncing off of one's perception of themselves.
Right, the interpretation
What
of
what an incredible
yeah.
misrepresentation of reality that could be
It's
as
a
a set of
swim.
ideas, you know?
It's a swim,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Reality is like a swim.
right.
Well, there's a lot to say about this. I don't know if your guys would be interested in talking like this.
Well, I mean, it's everything to me when I am trying to explain this stuff and water it down so that it is digestible, to use that as a metaphor. To when I water it down, I just try to get to the heart of, like, be here now, do this thing without distraction. I'm always like, that's my way anyway, and so even I can cause a distraction sometimes when I'm coaching, and so it's not that I'm trying to be a lazy coach by not coaching, but I will take a step back and I won't say anything, because it gets in
the way the guys, when we were training at the dojo,
yeah,
and we don't have to name them, but they virtually, in the middle of the workout, they'd stop and start talking because they got to talk.
Yeah.
The authoritarian personality. Right. I'm here, listen to me. I can teach you, and then you cool down, and the rest of your workout sucks.
Yeah,
I mean, these guys knew that much about teaching.
Right.
Just because you know how to do doesn't mean that you know how to teach.
How many times have I seen that played out? Athlete coaches are very, very. It's difficult because the perception, to get on the subject of training, the perception of the athlete's identity to themselves is, well, I can do this, so why can't you do this?
Right.
And it's just that it's like so far gone. Like,
that's why some of the great players don't make good coaches.
No, because
not all.
Because teaching is a skill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Getting ideas across, having that idea in its purest, I guess, most unadulterated form first is hard enough to get to. So getting good information is hard enough to get to, let alone taking that good information and projecting it through a completely flawed human being instead of a robot, right?
Yeah.
Like you get just pure ones and zeros.
This is very difficult life. You got to realize it. I call it a swim. Well, it's kind of polluted water too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
really.
so I mean, I've gone through that. I don't know how many times now. Different methods of training, but and to go back to training about that, it's you have to continue to be the best student of your own experience.
That's right.
As you can, and it doesn't matter that it's training. It's like obviously that can relate to anything. I talk about it through training because that's what I've obsessively done over the last 20 years. But I am constantly in observation of how I emotionally feel going into a training session that makes me feel anxious, or as if I won't complete it, and what that means, and et cetera, like dominoes just rolling down. But it still comes down to, I must remain in the moment, breathe, one step at a time, get the work done, move forward. And it doesn't matter the outcome. It matters that you step in and do the practice that is meant to be practiced. And it's a way that is not only beneficial, it's like killing two birds with one stone. You get to be physically embodied in something that is difficult and overcome difficulty, and I'm hoping that develops emotional resilience. That,
Oh, there's no question.
Right? And so
when
there's
I was a skinny kid who lifted weights for a long time, then hit the bag and all that.
Yeah.
Just working out all the time kept me going.
Right.
Consider if I did not do that kind of thing, my life would probably not be as decent as it is.
And so that's my main sell on training itself, is like, the reason why it's important is because not only because you get the health benefits, even though those are completely synergized with the mental benefit of it, it is a meditative practice. Like, this shit's hard, lift it, do that better. It's super simple stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like, get in your body, stand up straight. I know I'm slouching and I'm hypocritical as I say it. Breathe. Squeeze your muscles. Nothing else matters right now. Like, get in this moment. Like, stop thinking about other things. Stop thinking about failing. Failing is not now. Stop thinking about what you have to do later on. Like, and it's a grounding. Like I'm just trying to get people like grounded, you know, and out of their, because I get caught up in it too. Go in so many directions, so many different things happening, especially with art. That's kind of like, that's how inspiration works, is you're exposed to a gazillion things and then you narrow it down to a few things that works. And so your brain is just all over the place, you know?
Considering your relationship to these poor guys that
Yeah.
you have,
Yeah, that have to listen.
maybe it would actually make them like you more if they had an image of you in their mind and like a description beneath the portrait, and it would be the Zen Nazi,
Yeah.
and then John with his T-shirt on, but with a SS cap on, and you can see that in one of the hands there's a whip.
Yeah. Well, you told me, so it's not any different.
And I bet they would like that.
How do they do it? I mean, but mention how they do it in the Zen monastery.
Oh, they hit
They
you.
walk around with a stick.
Well, that's all agreed upon, though.
Well, yeah.
So these guys agreed upon.
Yeah.
They would probably like that.
Absolutely.
They probably have a bunch of sickos.
I'll put it in the clause at the beginning of the training session. Say, listen, if you step into this floor, you agree to be beaten. That's just part of the agreement.
No, if I were you, I would amend that a little bit. If you step onto this floor,
Yeah.
you agree to suffer.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're gonna suffer.
Like, yeah. Perfect point. And to go back to what we were talking about, painkillers and things. Stop avoiding suffering. Like, you're not going to. It's not. So, like, deal with it.
We know somebody in our family
Yeah.
who ran away from suffering all the time
Yeah.
by constantly taking painkillers.
Right.
And then when he went in for a hip replacement,
Yeah.
the baseline that they found in him was based upon the painkillers he was taking.
Right.
And so when they gave him medication later on, that baseline had fallen, let's say it was like 70, 80%, it had fallen to 30%.
Right.
Let's say baseline is 50%, okay?
Right.
They pumped him up to 70, 80% regularly, but then when they're removed, his baseline goes down to 30%, and they didn't give him enough
Right.
painkiller, and he was not used to pain, and so now he was in much more pain, and boy, was he a nasty, he always showed that. When he was in pain, he was extremely nasty.
And I guess the major concept for people to understand is this foresight. Like,
Right.
look where you're going.
Yeah, you're
like,
human.
Stop going down the path that
You
that
can
is
tell.
the path of least resistance, the easy way. That I mean, it goes down.
At least put
It's
something
indulgence.
difficult.
Right.
Put some like weight training. That's
That's
the
what I'm
difficult.
saying. It's like, I mean, we don't have to. We're not in Auschwitz. You know what I mean? Having to worry about our lives every single second of the day. It's pretty good here. It's not perfect, but
It's damn good.
it's like
There are things in this world that make this look like heaven compared to that.
But that's what I'm saying. Is like people are completely taking that shit for granted. And I was
They
talking about
do.
it yesterday with warriorism and the idea of like this grandeur of being a champion. And it's you know, you get this emotional high from being an athlete and doing all these things that make you go up on a pedestal, and it's good. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but realize you should be even more grateful because you are even allowed to do that in the first place. Not only that you have 2 arms and 2 legs, but that you have the ability to not have to dodge a bomb everywhere you go, or somebody trying to harm you every single place you go to, or you don't have to starve to death.
Those are all, in my opinion, worthwhile venues of conversation. I would always tend to do this with it because this is where I go. I want to go to the bottom of the ocean. I want to go to the bottom of it and talk about, just address, not lecture, not reprimand or anything like that. Address the point of the eyes of the other. I can teach a little of it from the point of view of Sartre, and it would be very understandable. Lots of people already understand its significance. Even if they don't ponder it, they can see it because how many people do we know in the business, your business, who are doing it for the sake of appearance? They're doing it for the sake of image. It's more than not just physical image, but like I'm a strong person as well.
Right.
So there's more to it. But
the identity.
But but it still comes from the eyes of the other.
Yes.
No matter how you put it.
And so, if we were to draw a visual of the issue that you're talking about, so you have an embodied state would be one that sees straight to within, like straight within to the world, straight line, and then you have
possibility.
Right. Then you have disconnect through the homunculus that we were talking about, where you're now no longer from here straight at what you're trying to perceive, but rather you're going out into this idea, this set of ideals, this filter of oneself and that set of ideals around that, and then you're coming outward and then trying to perceive yourself back inward, and it's not dealing with reality, it's dealing with a false perception upon perception of realities. Like too many filters, too many, how can I say it easier? How can I say it straighter?
You're doing a good job.
Yeah.
While you were talking about that, I was thinking of something. And years ago when I was teaching at CCRI, I was asked to be the chairman of the Barclay Society annual meeting. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm an idea guy. I'm not a guy with a gavel in his hand and all that. I always hated that side of having to teach kids. And the way I overcame that was learning so that only the complete idiots would attack you because you know so much about what you're saying. So the strength is in the knowledge. Okay. So I did the Barclay Society, and during that, the people were from Princeton and Yale and Michigan and UCLA, and they were doing. And I asked one guy, he was doing a brilliant job. These are very powerful intellectuals with, scores and scores of publications and stuff. But I asked this question. I said about Barclay, his version of the human soul, completely empty, just a receptor for what God puts through it. And God creates this big art form called the universe, and it's all of God's thought, and He puts it in front of the soul, which absorbs it. It's kept in place by God's thought. Like all this is not real. It's only kept in place by God's thought. When we're not here, it disappears according to me. And I know that sounds wild, but there's an aspect to it. And you can't disprove what he says, because basically he accounts for all of existence. He says, yeah, the inanimate object doesn't really exist in itself. It's just an idea put in front of you, a phantasm by God. And for your entertainment and whatever, your elevation and His entertainment, whatever you want to say about it. But God is like pure light, and He creates all this stuff in your face.
Is that the holographic model?
No, I don't know where Barclay came long before him. But maybe you could apply the holographic, because I don't think they knew much about that back then. He was an Irish bishop, Bishop Barclay, but he was like, it's a mystical point of view, basically.
Yeah. Right.
And so I said, in the human soul, this empty soul, is there anything at all? Because in phenomenology, Husserl said, when you boil everything away from consciousness, there will still be one thing that's left, the consciousness and judgment. What does that mean? Like that Buddha over there, I would be able to judge that that's a statue. That kind of level of judgment, not moral judgment or anything like that. But just, in other words, being able to recognize things, to be able to walk your way through life. And he said no. He thought about it. I asked a very valid question. Nobody ever asked him that. And basically he said no, nobody addresses that. There's nothing at all there. There's just consciousness. So the human being is just a consciousness, which is kind of like what I've been saying for several decades or more.
And to tie it into what we were previously talking about too, the entire idea of a meditative practice is to get rid of the filters between you and pure consciousness.
Well, if you can do it,
Right.
I'm not even sure. I mean, I haven't done it, but
Well, I think what happens is you can get nibbles of it.
you got to make the effort.
Yeah.
It'll never just come to you.
Right.
But even if you work, as I said in my writings, you can do everything you possibly can to get yourself ready, but it still has to be a gift from the universe. There has to be a grace involved in it, which seems to me that there's something else implied, like a high intelligence. There's a lot to talk about concerning this, but I just wanted to address your poor victims.
Yeah.
And I would like them to watch this and maybe make a decision as to whether they want to get together and have
Sure.
a chat.
Sure. That's next. So
Okay?
we'll
Good.
see when we can get that to happen.